Hey everybody, it's Mr. Dow. I'm just going to do a brief screencast here to help you with the information on the quote usage page that talks about how to use this hamburger method, which I'm teaching here. Actually, the deal is, in terms of quote integration in this class, I'm going to make you use the hamburger method because I don't know if it's necessarily the best method in the world, but it is a method that forces you to kind of think of all quoted material as pieces of evidence in an argument you're trying to make. And what I found is that if people take that method and they go to another school or to another class and they have to write a paper and they follow it, they never ever get into trouble. It always works. It's not guaranteed to get you an A, but it is guaranteed to work. So let's start with just here. What I've done first off, I've just started a paper here. I just want to show you. So there it is. There's this paper following paper number 1 rules that you're following. Same topic matter. But obviously it's a made-up paper. I mainly did this. I wanted to first, even before we get into quote integration, I wanted to show you what a paper should look like, just in case you've never done a formal paper in Modern Language Association rules. The Modern Language Association or the MLA is the body which we follow when we turn in papers in any humanities-based course, such as English or art history, something like that. And there are other formats that other classes will require. The thing that is similar about most of those formats, though, I'll show you a quick chart about that right here. What you'll see right here is a chart. These are the main 3 formats of formal writing that can come up in college and beyond. Like I say, MLA, that's Modern Language Association, humanities-based courses. The APA is psychology, sociology courses, Chicago style, history, et cetera, et cetera. There are a lot of similarities between these styles. Most of the differences come in how to actually cite the quotes or write a works cited page or a bibliography page. But for us, what I'm mainly interested in, just in terms of the look of any paper, you'll see that the margins, let me make that bigger for you, the margins for all the styles are essentially the same, 1 inch on all sides. Don't justify the right margin, justify the left. You'll see all the styles require you to double space. You'll see all the styles are saying, hey, you should indent the first word of a paragraph, indent first line of every paragraph. In other words, you're not skipping lines between paragraphs and having block paragraphs. You always indent the first line, et cetera, et cetera. So in terms of the basic look of these of the styles, they're very similar. So here for the MLA style, which is what you're working on this class, you do, when you turn the final draft, you have to write your name here. That's the student's name. The instructor who you're writing the paper for, the class you're writing the paper for, the due date of the paper. That all goes on the left top. And you put a title when is needed. In our class, I'm not requiring there to be a title, but you see it's like centered. And then we have the paper itself. And you'll see I've indented here and I've justified the left margin but not the right margin. Here's a new paragraph right here. There's no extra spacing there. All right, I just want to show this. So that's an MLA formatted paper in general. If other things you might think about, this is all 12 point. My font is 12 point. I'm using Times New Roman. You can use that or Arial. Basically, I'm not free to make all my own decisions here. I can't use Gothic font because I love it. I can't use green printing or green ink because I like that color. I have to kind of follow the rules. And like I say, most of these rules in terms of the visuals are the same for each style. All right, let's get to the actual paper itself, what I want to show you. This is where I would write my introduction paragraph. It'll give you background on the topic. My more information, writing introduction, conclusion paragraphs come in next week's module, et cetera, et cetera. I just want to put a placeholder here. I'm not using any quotes in the introduction paragraph. I did underline where I put my theme statement because I've already got that done. That is a thing that should appear in this paper when you write your own paper. Put your theme in there. And like I say, after the theme, I'll write one more sentence after the theme, giving the reader an overview of the specific direction my paper will go in order to fully explore that theme. Now you're going to get examples of each one of these paragraphs that actually are fully written. I'm just sort of previewing it here. The kind of sentence I would write here after my theme would be something like, to understand that theme, a reader should examine Rainsford's character psychology, comma, the internal-external conflicts of the protagonist, comma, and the author's use of irony. And that's my thesis, that along with the theme statement. All right, but like I say, none of that has anything to do with quotation usage. I'm just trying to set it up and show you what a paper looks like. So now I'm in a body paragraph, and I'm ready to make a point that's going to help me understand the theme and to support it with quotation support. So here's the point I've come up with. You've seen this before in a previous page on our class site. In In the opening third of the story, Rainsford's main character trait seems to be that he's conceited. That's the point I'm going to make. That's all I'm going to do in this paragraph, show that I think he's kind of conceited. I will spend a sentence explaining what I mean by that, because one word often isn't enough to fully get the point across. He thinks very highly of himself, his abilities, and his view of the world. That's my purpose. I think it's important to the story and the meaning of the story that you know that as a character, Rainsford has been set up to be this guy who thinks a lot of himself. Now here's a support quote I found. I would like this support quote to go into this paragraph, and it's the first of my support quotes. Quote, ... There's my ellipse. I took some material out right there. I don't need it. He stopped before he had swum 50 feet. A certain cool-headedness came to him. It was not the first time he'd been in a tight place. And there's my citation, Connell 479. So what I'm saying to you is I came up with my ideas of the paper first. Then I found the quotes second. If I've got good ideas and good quotes to support those ideas, I've got the skeleton of this paper. However, I do need to add the flesh to the skeleton, which means I have to write a setup sentence in front of this quote and a reconnection sentence after this quote. And I'm going to do that right now, just kind of show you what I'm talking about. The setup sentence of this quote needs to let the reader know, where is this in the story? Give me some context that will help me understand the quote a little better. Also, I need to treat the quote as a piece of evidence. I'm not going to tell the story. I have to constantly, my point is always this, to prove that Rainsford is conceited. That's my point. Every single sentence in this paragraph should be proving that point. If I have a sentence that does nothing but tell you the story, then something's wrong with my writing. So here I'm going to use language that helps set it up as evidence. All right, he thinks very highly of himself, his abilities, and his view of the world. Okay. One example of this idea, all right, that's treating it as evidence. And I've got more than one way I could write that. I don't have to say what, second example, a third example. I can say evidence of this concept, or I can say Rainsford's, Rainsford's cockiness is also clear when, there's lots of ways to do it, but I always want to refer back to my point and kind of let the reader know, yeah, look, I'm making an argument. That's what's going on. So my next thing to do on that sentence, it's not done yet, I have to kind of let the reader know, where is this in the story? Well, this is where Rainsford falls off the boat. That's in the very beginning. So I'm going to say, one example of this idea can be seen in Rainsford's reaction after he falls off the yacht. All right, there it is. Now, I try to be specific about this because I'm not giving you a quote that shows me how Rainsford falls. I'm not giving you a quote that shows me how Rainsford struggles in the water. I want to show you a quote that backs up how conceited he is, and that's his reaction after he finally gives up swimming, and that's what's coming here. Now, I want this to be one paragraph, so let's eliminate that space here and bring up the quote. All right. And I'm going to get rid of this support quote stuff. That was really just for you. I'd like this to look like a paragraph. So, all right, now we're good. There it is. I got to bring up that line. There's always a line between. Now, here we go. Take a look at my paragraph now. In the opening third of the story, Rainsford's main character trait seems to be that he's conceited. He thinks very highly of himself, his abilities, and his view of the world. One example of this idea can be seen in Rainsford's reaction after he falls off the yacht. Quote, he stopped before he had swum 50 feet. A certain cool-headedness came to him. It was not the first time he had been in a tight place. So I've set this up, I think, pretty clearly. Like the reader will know, okay, that's a piece of evidence you're giving me, and I know where it comes from. I get it. What I haven't done yet is argue that it's good evidence. I haven't explained to the reader, why is this good evidence? What's the link between the evidence and the point? So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do that here in the reconnection part of the quote. This is the bottom bun of the hamburger. Okay, so let me start arguing that is a piece of evidence about being conceited, or the second line, he thinks highly of himself and his abilities. I'm going to do this. There's so many different ways to do it. Basically, you should think, I need to argue that I'm right. I need to argue that quote is good. Let me make commentary on the quote. All right, I'm going to start with this, just that how ridiculous the situation is. This guy's in a terrible, terrible spot, and yet a cool-headedness came to him. So let me try to explain that. Rainsford is alone at night, floating in the middle of the ocean, yet he is able to become calm after, let's see, no, I don't like that. He is able to calmly give up on the idea of catching the boat. I want to say his reaction, but I already said reaction right here. I need another way to say that. His ability to stay, now I'm going to use the actual term, cool-headed in a situation where most people would panic and probably die, and probably die, tells the reader that Rainsford does not really believe he is capable of being in trouble, at least not physically. The last line of the quote tells, oh, I already said tells, the last line of the quote indicates that he is an old pro at dealing with dangerous situations. All right, let me see. Have I done a good job? Let's read it. Cool-headed escape. Not the first time I've been in a tight place. Rainsford's alone at night, floating in the middle of the ocean, yet he's able to calmly give up the idea of catching the boat. His ability to stay cool-headed in a situation where most people panic and probably die tells the reader Rainsford does not really believe he's capable of being in trouble, at least not physically. The last line of the quote indicates is he is an old pro at dealing with dangerous situations. I think it's okay. I don't think it's great because I think I'm this sentence here is arguing that he's kind of conceited or thinks really highly of himself. This line doesn't do quite as much. I think when I revise this, I might take that second line and move it up. But in general, I've done what I wanted to do. I have stated my point. I found a way to let you know, hey, a quote is coming. This is where the quote comes from. The quote is evidence. And then after that evidence, I've kind of tried to explain to you why it's evidence. A lot of people give up here and say, well, I've finished, Mr. Dow. Let's move on. And what I'm going to show you now is, no, you haven't moved on. I need to do that with 2 more quotes. If I don't have 3 quotes that would argue the same idea that Rainsford is conceited, then I don't have a good point, and I shouldn't be writing that idea. At least 3 pieces of evidence minimum. If I can come up with more, I will come up with more. So I'm going to do the exact same thing too. What I'm teaching here is a pattern. It's not, you should never get to like start halfway through your paragraph and say, oh, I'm lost. You're never lost. The next thing you should do is make another hamburger. Make another hamburger dealing with that second support quote you found. All right, and so I'm going to eliminate where it says support quote 2. And I can, without even telling what the quote is, I can start my next sentence. It's going to be a setup or a top bun to another piece of evidence. Rainsford's extreme confidence comes across again in the scene where and I'll continue. I'll tell you what the scene is, and then I will give you the quote, and then I will write about why it's a good quote, etc., etc. And I'll do that for at least 3 quotes, and that will be this full paragraph. And notice my paragraph's getting longer. If you're writing a short paragraph, then probably you're doing something wrong. Now here is the next paragraph of this paper. It starts with the topic sentence, which is right from my outline. So, again, I'm not lost. I know exactly where I have to go. Another way the theme is expressed is in the story's conflicts. Now I got to explain that a little bit. Rainsford has an external conflict with General Zaroff, which is the result of their differing views of morality. This leads to his internal conflict, where he must battle against his own fear. So I found 3 other quotes for this. I found quotes that shows this external conflict with Zaroff about morality. I've also found quotes about the internal conflict where he battles his fear. I've got that coming, and there's the quotes. I might have 4 quotes there, just got to deal with 2 conflicts. But I'm going to hamburger every single one of those quotes. And then here's the next paragraph. The theme is also established in the ironic parallel between blah, blah, blah. I think you get the point at this stage. I've got a point here. I'm going to about ironic parallels. I found 3 quotes that show the parallels between Rainsford and Zaroff, and those 3 quotes are all going to be hamburgered here, which will lead to a fairly long paragraph. I'll do here exactly what I did here. I changed my wording. I tried to not ever repeat myself. There's really no need. The English language is flexible enough. You don't have to repeat yourself. But in the end, once I've done it right once, I just continue doing it the same thing all the way to the end of the paper. And then I have a conclusion. I will give you more information on that in the next module. But the point is that it's not as long as those body paragraphs because there's no quotes. So that is it. That's the way ultimately your paper should kind of look. And that's the way that the integrated quote should look. And you should just continue. And that's what you're practicing this week. Like I said, I will have examples